globally. That's what I said.
But brother, you're wrong. You're
Yeah,
actually factually.
have you been to Africa by those people?
The most honorable, yes, has been. Number two, the honorable Minister was Farrakhan, yes, has been multiple times. The honorable Minister was Farrakhan was deputized as a general over 45 Islamic nations under Gaddafi of Libya. I'm sure you've heard of him, one of the African leaders. Brother Minister Farrakhan has been dubbed over multiple nations. Watch the recent Savior's Day address towards the very end, where he shows the different titles that he was given from different Muslim leaders, where he was given certain staffs, certain jackets, certain swords of authority of one of the sheikhs over in Nigeria, one of the head sheikhs, the Buddha sheikh, or the sheikh of sheikhs. He was given his staff of authority. Wait, brother, wait a minute. I'm educating because you don't know. Minister Farrakhan.
I'm not interested in titles. Like, I'm interested in what.
No. I hear you. No. And I'm educated.
You can go to Africa now, and there'll be a whole heap of men come out and give you titles, and yeah, this guy.
Of course.
I want to.
Of course, but brother,
work. I don't care about titles and men celebrating.
No. If you were interested in groundwork, you let the brother in the nation whom you disrespected to educate you about the work that we're doing. We have Nation of Islam locations in Jamaica. We have Nation of Islam locations in Nigeria. We have them in the UK. We have them in Haiti.
I know,
all over.
I've been to the one in the UK. I've spoken at the Nation of Islam in the UK. I know.
Oh, good. So if you know, then you would know how to address. Once again, you're proving right now, brother, that you directly disrespected and you intentionally disrespected just by the way you commented under my post. I do apologize, brother. So I hear you. But at the same time, even if it were someone who you follow, or a nation that you belong to, etc., whatever it is that you're a part of, I would be respectful in at least speaking, because the thing that you said reflected on the fact that you don't know the actual facts because the FBI files have not been released yet. So how can you say anything dealing with Minister Farrakhan?
My opinion of Malcolm being a greater man than Minister Farrakhan or Elijah Muhammad, my opinion, which I'm entitled to.
Okay, thank you. Everyone heard, so that's your opinion. I appreciate that, brother. I definitely appreciate that. And when you said a part of the effery, okay, the fuckery, all right, as far as Brother Malcolm being assassinated, etc., when you made that statement, what proof do you have that Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam was a part of it? What actual solid proof do you have?
I don't have any solid proof or any solid evidence, but the rhetoric was that everybody at the time were against Malcolm X. They weren't coming out to protect him. They were the ones who were basically saying, no, it's okay for anybody to do whatever they want to him, or we'll do it to him. So that's why it seems like they were a party to him. They didn't come out and defend him.
I can clear that up.
Protect him.
I can clear that up.
CIA.
No, I can clear that up for you. In the Nation of Islam, when you are silenced or you are sat down for 90 days, right? That's one of our rules in the nation. You know, every organization has its own rules. You know, you're on probation for a week if you do this, you're on probation. But, you know, you go to school, you'll be an academic probation for. Right? No.
I was in the army as well, but I was in the British Army, and I disobeyed the rules there, and then they tried to do certain things, but I was like, whatever, because
yeah. And I don't know how they operate in the British Army, but in the Nation of Islam, for instance, one of the simple policies is 90 days. You know, if you do certain things that are disobeying or go against the rules, right, of our military. Everybody has military. But he did that. He commented on the assassination of John F. Kennedy, which every member, not just Malcolm, every minister was told not to comment on the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Why? Because Americans love John F. Kennedy. That's what they said. Very simple. The messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, was very wise, and he told all the members, do not comment on that. Don't do that. Brother Malcolm stepped out of ranks when he said this. He said, well, I think it's a simple case of the chickens coming home to roost. That was not okay. He disobeyed the authority. Everybody was told.
Did he leave the nation after that?
No. After a certain point, he was sat down multiple times, just so you know. He was told not to speak at this point, not to speak at this point. It was multiple times, okay, until he left. It led up to that, until he left. And it wasn't that, oh, he woke up and he found out that there were white Muslims in Mecca and he could go and pray with white Muslims and, oh, I guess they're not devils because, oh, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad lied to me. No, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was teaching white Muslims around his table all the time. He was teaching white people constantly for years. So that was not true. Number two, he did not go to Mecca in Arabia before the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That also is not true. And three, he said, well, I guess, he told me no devils can go to Mecca. No, because devil or that name is a bad name after faith. If you are embracing the tenets of Islam, you embrace those core principles of Islam, this is what we teach, by the way, then you can't call that person a devil if they are operating out of those righteous principles. Very simple. So that was a big lie. He got poisoned in Egypt. Malcom did, and he said they are not members of the Nation of Islam. The people who poisoned me were not in the Nation of Islam. And the last point to just clear all this up, at the very end, he wasn't being protected. Why? Because he was not in the nation at the time. So that is what happened. But under his not being protected, right, from the enemy, the same white supremacist enemy from the CIA, FBI, who had been watching him for years, but had been watching the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad for 25 years. This is on YouTube. You can hear it as well. Brother Malcom, wasn't being protected, but the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad told every member of the Nation of Islam, do not touch Malcom. Leave Malcom alone. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that to all of the members, leave him alone. And in the Audubon Ballroom, when he was assassinated, the Audubon Ballroom under Malcolm's call, under Malcolm's words, he said to not secure the door. And at that time, even he knew that security, doorpost, you must have someone checking the people coming in and going out. You must make sure no weapons are coming in because the climate at that time was very high. So I'm not exonerating every member of the Nation of Islam. Everybody has envy and jealousy. I got people envious and jealous of me right now, probably in the nation and definitely people outside of the nation who are envious and jealous of me. However, who did the murdering? Who did the killing? That is where we need to really look at it. And
I know who did it. I'm not saying the nation did it. I'm saying that it appears for somebody outside of the nation that they were a party to it because of all of the rhetoric afterwards. Is that everybody was proud that he was dead?
No. Everybody was not proud that he was dead. Mind you, you nor I were alive back then. So let's make that very clear, right? So there are even things that I don't know still. There are things you don't know and things that I don't know still because we weren't alive at the time. However, what is known is when Brother Malcom was murdered, assassinated, killed, Eugene Roberts was an agent. Eugene Roberts, by the way, you can look at Gene Roberts, Gene Roberts interview dealing with the murder of Malcolm X. He confesses the truth, talks about how he worked for the United States government, talks about how he was an agent, talks about all of this. That's on there as well on YouTube. You got to watch that because
I already watched that.
Oh, you watched? Oh, good, very good.
I was just in Ghana with his youngest daughter, Malak. And I've been and spoken to Atala before as well. And I just feel like the way that Malcom was moving was he had a global think mentality. After, he was Detroit Red, and then he was in the nation, and then what he was starting at the end of his life was something that needs to continue. And it feels like to me that isn't continuing in any significant way for global unity, African unity. I, for one, am one to say that, I respect people's religions, but I'm not interested in the religion before I'm interested in the people. Because there's many people who, you wouldn't call religious in Congo, for instance, who are getting murdered so that we can have iPhones, right? And that's something that a lot of people not only are not speaking about, but they're not also putting their own bodies, their own times and resources to stop these things from happening. And it seems like you can be the man at the top of the mountain, right? Meditating and be spiritually awakened. You can be the group of people who are all looking out for each other as a small secular group. But what are we doing globally? Malcolm was doing when he was organizing the Organization of Afro-American Unity after the organization of the Union, African Unity, which you know, the order of the became the African Union, which is just basically a subsidiary division of the UN, right? Which doesn't do anything for our people right now. And so there is nothing for me that is significant in the USA that is doing for us globally. Like, for instance, Ghana. I'm in Ghana regularly, right? Ghana doesn't know who they're going to go and speak to if they want to speak to all of the diaspora in North America. They might come and sit the nation. They might go and speak to, you know, the gods and the earths. They might go and speak to NACCP, but there's no one organization. And I think that this is where we are divided, because when white people deal with us politically, they all deal with us the same. So when Ghana is speaking to white people, they're speaking to the continent of Europe. They're speaking to the continent of North America. They're not just speaking to Texas, right? They're not just speaking to Arkansas. All of those 50 whatever states are all dealing with Ghana. So they have all of this white inferiority dealing with them, right? And they all deal with, you know, individual Ghana, Gambia, South Africa. So when we African people globally, Jamaica, go and deal with the continent of North America, we are stuck because we are not dealing with these people as a united continent of Africans, 1 billion people, a united diaspora, South America, Central America, the Caribbean, and North America. We're dealing with them as Brooklyn or as New York. We're dealing with them as Panama or even Brazil. And I feel like that is why, for me, Malcolm was significant and very great, because his thinking, he said that ideas are bulletproof. His thinking has inspired many, many, many people to go forward and try and create this. But right now, it's something that we don't have. And it's a problem when we're trying to talk about transferring to and from Africa, because African leaders in African countries don't know who they're going to speak to when they speak to people in the diaspora. Because they can't just speak to me, because I'm one person. They can't just speak to the nation, because that only represents a particular section of people. It doesn't represent everybody, even though you work with everybody. And so this is what I'm trying to get to. I'm not trying to, like, what I said maybe was emotionally charged, because I do feel like many black people in North America failed Malcolm X. And what he was doing was way ahead of his time. And if you watch what he was saying then, it's still relevant right now, right? And so that for me is, I'm not part and parcel to, you know, particular being the Messiah. I do believe that I do believe that Martin Luther King, I do believe that people from the MOVE organization, I do believe that the Black Panthers, there was too much of this bravado, and there was Marcus Garvey, there was one person to go after, right? Or there was 10 people to go after, right? You can't go after the United States of America, because it's the United States. And when I'm trying to figure out when we're going to get the United States of black people, the United States of the African diaspora. And so that's something that I'm working on right now, because I believe that that is more important going forward in terms of economics, education, having political power. Like, we're still asking for justice from people whose whole system has been created on injustice, people whose whole economic prosperity has been created on the enslaving of my ancestors and the enslaving of your ancestors and the killing of the indigenous people in North America with the smallpox, so on and so forth and so on and so forth. A lot of people don't know about being a citizen is being a member of the corporation of the United States. So when they're killing people in the USA, they're terminating property. You know, they stock market out at birth, so debt thing. How are we going to liberate ourselves from this system? Because COINTELPRO was deliberately set up to stop the rise of a black nation, the rise of a black messiah, and stop us speaking in North America, the Caribbean, South America, to people in Africa. So that's my question to you. Where do we go from here?
Absolutely beautiful. And thank you very much for for all of that, because the main thing you're looking at is a global, and that Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was not global, and that Brother Malcolm was global, and that the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, is not global. We're not doing a global connecting of the diaspora of Africa to North America, to all of our brothers and sisters across the Caribbean, et cetera, et cetera. And I,
I mean,
I heard everything you said.
Like, you're a military, you have lots of bases, but it's like, whether you're
Oh,
in
no.
whether you're in it, so I feel like that's something you can leverage to actually.
Absolutely. So to your point, we are global. That's the first thing. We are invested in and involved in trade and commerce, business-wise. We are invested in, for instance, one small example, because of course we can't say everything over the enemy's network. Of course, I think you understand what I'm saying. But one small example is we import fish from outside of the country from one of our brother countries. That's one small example. We also import coffee beans from Ethiopia. We have our own farms here, so we are independent as far as agriculture goes. We have multiple farms in America. We are connected to multiple African nations doing business, doing educational exchange, doing once again, trade and commerce of goods and services, and have set up many different things from scholarships to housing, et cetera, et cetera. And we are doing a whole lot more. The only difference is it's not being seen on social media like everything else. And why is that? Because if this enemy wants to destroy you, what will they do? They're going to look to see what it is that you're doing. And we can't put every single thing on social media. We can't put every single thing and publicize it, because as you know, COINTELPRO, as you so eloquently spoke of it, is to prevent the rise of a black messiah who can unify and electrify the people. So therefore, I'm not going to broadcast in front of my enemy my next move. I'm not going to broadcast in front of my enemy all of the different business agreements that I have with Haiti or Jamaica or Nigeria or Nairobi, Kenya, or Ghana. I'm not going to negotiate and put all that up on Front Street. Why? Because I'm telling my enemy where to go to destroy me and to destroy everything that I am building. You build in quiet and you explode in success. That is how a nation has to operate now, because you have something called COINTELPRO. You have infiltration. You have agents. Agent provocateurs. You have those, and they still exist to this very day. We are not free. We are not free, not entirely, but we are slowly but surely coming out of it. We do have sovereign territory. I heard you mention dealing with that, about people who don't know about the birth certificate, etc., which we know very well about. And the Nation of Islam has been doing a lot of different things as far as liberating people from that as well. We've been doing this for a very long time. But your initial point goes back to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad not being global, and that Brother Malcolm X all of a sudden somehow became global. Malcolm X learned all that he learned from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and then went on self-study as well. But the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad had deals and business deals with the Japanese. He had business deals and connections with multiple African countries. He had business deals with Peru, which is where the Muhammad fish importation was coming from. We had boats, fishing boats, where we were fishing and bringing in loads and tons of fish from outside of the country. This was going on under the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to where the Nation of Islam had created and amassed an over $80 million economy. We had cleaners, we had transportation systems, we had one major hospital with 500 beds that we were working on. We had an airport, independent schools, which we still have to this day. We had independent virtually everything. And what happened? The government came in and destroyed it all. So because you're not seeing it doesn't mean it is not taking place. That is the number one most ignorant thing that people do, is they look at what's simply being seen. And that's the problem, because if you are only going off of, well, I don't see it. Well, that's your problem, because you're not here. Like, from my understanding, you're not even in America currently. Yes?
No, right now I'm in Thailand.
Right. So you're not in America. I am. You don't know where I am right now. I don't know where you are right now. Just because I don't know exactly where you are and where you don't know where I am doesn't mean I'm not here, and it doesn't mean you're not there. It simply means we don't see it, but it doesn't mean it's not occurring. So the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad had all of those international global deals occurring. And today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has far more than the most honorable Elijah Muhammad did at that time. He elevated it. And I'll give you everybody something to watch. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's World Friendship Tour on YouTube, where he was accepted, welcomed by multiple countries, multiple African nations, multiple nations embraced and accepted all across the world and established international connections, thoroughly for business, thoroughly for education, thoroughly for everything. This is for everyone to understand. Just because you're not seeing it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But just be very careful that when people are commenting on things, just be careful that you have to have the actual facts. So a lot of things have occurred. We have made a lot of progress. But once again, you're dealing with between 45 to 50 million people in America under the system of white supremacy who strategically does not want us to succeed. So they're doing a lot to push us from success, but we are still making it through regardless. So all of that you said, brother, I appreciate, but it just demonstrated that there were just things that you didn't know. That's how I'm taking it. That's just certain things you know.
I'm aware that there must be trade deals, there must be things going on. But what I'm saying is, if for instance, Ghana wants to do something with the diaspora, we are not a united diaspora to do something with. We are